Hey everyone, Carl here again. I decided to send Zach the previous world entry to see what he thought about it, and this is what he replied.
This is definitely a bad sign. If you think I've made something of this, you're mistaken. This is the first time I've seen this. About the glitch at the end, I share the feeling that somehow the game didn't expect you to lose that fight. If you decide to continue playing, you should go carefully. If this happened in the first world, who knows what might come next?
That's good advice, I guess. Anyway, let's see how World 2 goes. This one is called Glacier. It looks like we won't be on actual planets anymore. The first thing I noticed is that Godzilla was nowhere to be seen. Instead, the only thing that remains from Earth is the Triceratops with the cursor on it. Selecting it confirmed what I assumed. It seems that from now on this game will be starring the new king of monsters. I guess nothing can be done. Maybe I can recover Godzilla in the future, who knows. Changing the subject, I'm surprised at how small the board is. Its music is quite ominous, so to speak. The bosses are called TEXTALAD, the one that looks like a placeholder, and Dagara, which looks like some sort of mixture of an octopus and a jellyfish. The enemy base seems to have changed color. I hope I don't meet up with red around here. I have also noticed that if I select an hexagon without a monster, it says the name of the level. These are in order from the closest to the farthest. Sunrise. Frozen Cavern. Wrong way. Desolate Area. Temple of Silence. The first two I can still imagine what they might be about, but the rest? No idea. By the way, as seen in the screenshot, the enemy base has a corrupted name, so I'll just call it the base. Apparently the Triceratops doesn't even have a legible name, so it occurred to me to call it Redhorn. Apart from its color change, it also seems to have bigger eyes, plus some plates on its back similar to those of Godzilla. This one is slightly slower and more resistant. His attack when pressing A is a bite. When pressing B he shoots blue projectiles that spend little by little the power bar, similar to Mothra's attack, and when pressing start he shoots from his longest horn a blue ray. This is guided to nearby enemies, but its range is small and it quickly spends the power bar. Finally, he jumps very little, so I hope the game doesn't put me in very platforming levels. In itself, on the first screen of the level it doesn't have much. It's a snowy valley with a nice sunrise in the background where the sun slowly rises. The music is definitely something new, with a soft tone and a strident feeling. Not much of a theme for a winter level, and I don't think a Nes could play music like this either. In the second screen, the sun began to rise more, ceasing to be a sunrise, and also no longer snowing. In this screenshot you can see one of the creatures that began to appear. Some of them were fleeing like on Earth, only faster, preventing you from taking a screenshot. Others like this one tried to attack biting, so I attacked them with some distance. On the last screen, the only frozen thing that remained was the ground, which slowly let the ice descend. The further I advanced, the more of these blue creatures, which seemed to suffer from the rising temperatures, appeared both in front and in the background. These merely crawled along without interfering with my path, only to stop moving and, surely, die. This had escalated rather quickly. From being a quiet area, now is, somehow, suffocating. With the whole scene I tried to go as fast as I could to the end of the level, which wasn't much. Then the game showed me this.
The sun rises.
Wow, what does this mean? Upon returning to the board, the color of this changed to a dark orange, plus the sunrise icon no longer had snow on the top. I guess, to the blue creature's misfortune, the sun has arrived. After that, I am reassured that this level is in an enclosed and, above all, cool place. As you can imagine, I advanced to the right. The music in this level is weird. At first it's like typical cave level music, but it's interrupted by what I guess are tribal chants with a lot of echo. Throughout the level the background walls seem to be decorated with this symbol, sometimes accompanied with some kind of hieroglyphs. These creatures run towards me, trying to push me into the numerous spike pits in the area while emitting noises similar to those that sound in the music. They may look dangerous, but they fall fast by shooting at them and keeping some distance, ignoring the fact that in this screenshot I am about to be pushed by one that appeared out of nowhere. In some of the pits there are dead creatures like the ones in the previous level. I guess even here they are not safe. Here I am facing the other type of enemy of this level. This one spits an icy breath that prevents you from performing attacks and, as if that wasn't enough, making you even slower. Although, being so tall and as they don't crouch, they only affect me when I'm in the middle of a jump or fall. In this capture I managed to disintegrate one that was almost at the limit of the horn's beam range. At the end of the level we have this mini boss, which suffers from the same problem as the ice breathers. This one shoots lightning bolts that pass over me, while moving forward and backward, even hitting the spikes on the walls several times, eventually defeating itself. Is this some kind of joke? I'm not complaining, but I really get the feeling that this mini-boss wasn't made for this level. Well, to the first boss. Okay, I don't know if I've already mentioned it, but I only know the basics of the Godzilla saga, but even so I'm sure this didn't come out of some official thing, it's something very abstract, you'll see why. At first he was simply moving forward and backward, punching and kicking. After hitting it a couple of times with the beam, it turned into a sphere, expending all its energy and changed to what I guess is a cloud. Now he moves from one side of the screen to the other, staying out of my reach. Sometimes he would stand still and throw several thunders, and sometimes he would end up going down to the ground in a similar way to the angry sun in Super Mario Bros. 3, this being his only vulnerable moment in this form. Now that I realize, unlike the fights in the normal game, which are on a black background, here they take place in some area of the planet, no big deal, but it's more interesting than literally nothing. Eventually, he changed form, expending his entire power bar again. Now he kept hovering in that area while moving his scope to shoot at me. His bullets did quite a bit of damage, but it took him a while to shoot back, so I managed to beat him somewhat just short of life. Actually, apart from the fight against TEXTALAD, it was not very difficult, although I should be cautious in the following boss fights, since, although there is still a timer, it seems to have gone from 40 seconds to just over a minute. On the other hand, after defeating a boss one recovers several stripes of life, which is a relief. Wrong Way seems to be set in space. Its music is calm and has something that makes it sound cosmic. I don't know how to explain it. Most of the level consists of these golden blocks and blue signs pointing in all directions. As I got deeper into the level it started to have a slight melancholy tone to it, as no matter where I went and no matter how many times I climbed or fell off by falling short on some jump, I always ended up alone and surrounded by the golden blocks. It's just absurd how big this level is, despite how far away other platforms might be. In the end I stopped trying to jump, as I would always end up landing on another platform. In one of my many falls I ended up finding some blue blocks that were moving from one side to the other, so I decided to climb up to see where it would take me. This one first advanced to the right and then went down for a while, until I came across this dinosaur. At first I thought it was an enemy, so I tried to attack it with my projectiles, but it didn't work. In fact, this one started to follow me. I guess the poor thing is as lost as I am. Although we were still lost, thanks to the positions of the arrows and what looked like pieces of ice floating on the background, I was able to identify some places I had already passed, trying to find another group of blue blocks in the hope of getting out of here. One thing I forgot to note is that my companion, being so tall, can tilt his long neck when passing through low spots. In another fall we ended up finding this dead end. Being in this area the music stopped completely, which was quite uncomfortable, seeing another creature that was not lucky enough to find others in its path. Luckily there was another group of blue blocks nearby that allowed me to move forward. After getting on another couple of blue blocks, we ended up finding this corrupted thing floating across the screen as it warped. At this point the music stopped again and the power and life bars disappeared to display various messages.
It is useless. You cannot cut down a tree with a shovel. You have failed. Resurrection is the only thing left. Be gone.
After this the screen faded to black, staying that way with a slight buzz for a few seconds. Then I went back to the board as if nothing had happened. Is this going to be a common thing or something? Now that I look at it, the board has been altered by removing the wrong way icons. Whatever that thing is, it really didn't want me near it, and honestly, I prefer that because it didn't give me a good feeling. Moving on to the second and last boss. This is Dagara. I guess this is a Godzilla monster, but I have no idea. All Dagara does is move randomly around the screen, ignoring the ground, and shooting lightning bolts in 4 directions. It's somewhat unpredictable, but his lightning doesn't do much damage. One weird thing I've noticed is that he hasn't lowered his power bar throughout the battle. Maybe he just doesn't do anything else? That's what I assumed until I was about to cut his life completely short, revealing his ace up his sleeve. After expending his power bar, he began to rise to the top of the screen as he shrank and the background darkened. After which this happened. Oh. I definitely wasn't expecting something like this, especially in the first world. Fortunately, the timer hit 0 after this scene, so I went back to find some life capsule, in which I almost died in the process. Now, with more life than before, I had to face Dagara's true powers. Its body is part of the background, using the tentacles coming out of the sides to attack. While it shoots lightning with one, it occasionally hits the ground with the other, this tentacle also being its weak point. After doing this a couple of times, the tentacles leave the screen, appearing these things that are similar to some purple enemies from the original game, differing only by their colors. These fall easily and can sometimes drop a life capsule. After 2 more times in which he repeated the cycle of attacks, Dagara finally fell. Instead of falling from the ground wrapped in explosions, he dies in a similar way to some Mega Man bosses, disappearing into the background while it changes from white to black at high speed. This level is similar to Wrong Way, but with a sky background with clouds. The background music is slow, like notes from a metallophone played one by one. The level is decorated by these crystals, most of them contain creatures of all kinds. After walking around for a while, I realized that when attacking occupied crystals, the creatures come out of them. Most of them simply run away, like the penguin in the screenshot, and others, in a few cases, try to attack me, highlighting enemies from previous levels. Here I ended up finding a green crystal. Touching one of these takes you to a locked room or another random part of the level. I got to find 4 of these. In the first one I entered a room just like the one in the screenshot but empty. The second one is the one in this screenshot. The monster on the left jumped in place. After recovering health I tried to attack it, but I touched the crystal again and it sent me to another area of the level. Also, I don't know why, but the sky from here became orange. The third crystal sent me to what looks like something outside the level itself, or so it seems to me. I had to move forward for a while in this forest as these winged things descended from the top of the screen, dropping down to attack me. Despite their size, they only hurt me if I touched their teeth. The last one was another enclosed room with this floating character. As I approached him he said this.
The first to walk on the moon was Jeremiah Vegafentir.
What? And just like that, after this curious display of wisdom, the level ends. This level from the beginning was strange, as you can see in the screenshot. Now apart from life and power there is also a noise bar, which is strange since in this level there is no music. Moreover, you can't even hear sound effects. Despite this, the noise bar was going up and down slightly at a regular rhythm. Where does the noise come from? Eventually the level became boring. It wasn't the first level I'd been on alone, but something about it was getting so heavy and monotonous, the absence of sound didn't help. So, without thinking, I made a loud yawn. Realizing now what the game was listening to. Everything happened very fast. The moment the noise meter reached the third section, the level changed to a red tone and started to fill up with enemies. My heart really skipped a beat. I didn't think the game was going to act this way already. No matter that I stopped making noise, once I reached that level, the bar descends at a slow pace, so I will have to survive while more and more enemies arrive. The ones that appear jumping in the two screenshots are the most common. They go striding until they reach you. They do a lot of damage but die quickly. On the other hand, the other one that you see on the right moves in a similar way, only it is weaker and more resistant. After surviving a while longer, the level returned to its initial state. Several seconds later, one of the statues dropped a health container and, upon grabbing it, the level ended. The game can really hear me. Maybe I should turn off the console and never touch this thing again. If this is just the second world, I don't want to imagine what could come next, but on the other hand, there is something about the game that is intriguing. I don't know how to explain it, as if everything I'm seeing shouldn't be like this. I know nothing I've seen is from the original game, but there is something about the wrong way thing that feels off. Anyway, I've only got the enemy base left to finish the world, so after that, I'll take a break to gather my thoughts and see what to do. Oh. Already by the absence of a coherent name I imagined it would be a level with some glitch, but not this. The music is somewhat overwhelming. It gives me the feeling that the game is going to crash at any moment. At first, this part of the level is similar to the forest section of Desolate Area, in that it consists of avoiding something constantly falling, only instead of monsters with bat-like features, they are now blocks of digits that seem to emerge from the interface itself, though I'm really not sure if these things hurt me, as Redthorn is simply a clump of pixels and the life bar is completely broken. Eventually I got to the end of the screen, moving on to this. Wait, another boss. On top of that, he's by far the boss with the most life and power I've ever encountered. Despite this, in the end it didn't seem that difficult. His main attacks are to kick after standing still for a second and what I assume is a grab, which doesn't work since Redthorn is short. After a while, Lether pulled out a new, more effective trick. First, he used the lightning bolt to trap me with ice. This doesn't do much damage. Although I couldn't move, I could still shoot. Then he would give one of his kicks. This was the moment when I saw how dangerous the kick could be. Now he was trying to do this all the time, but the ice beam after the first time was as predictable as the kick, so it was no problem. After reaching half of its life, Lether started to shatter. Then, the music from the beginning of the level came back and this went from being a fight to a sort of endurance and dodge test, so to speak. Now Lether became intangible and floated around the screen ignoring the ground, similar to Dagara. At the same time, his life was decreasing by seconds, so I had to pay all my attention to dodge those needles. As their life decreases, the needles came in more and more convoluted shapes and patterns. In the end I ended up surrounded by several needles that formed a ring that was slowly closing, so I decided to wait until Lether fell by itself. After that, another board appeared in a gray tone in which the Glacier base appeared. There was nothing more than that next to the silhouette of another base, no monsters, or even the cursor on the board. After a while pressing buttons, when I pressed start the screen went to black with an annoying noise in the background. I didn't know what to do anymore, so I simply turned off the console. Well, that was crazy. I didn't know what to expect from the game, but I certainly wasn't thinking about this. I mean, nothing I played was supposed to exist. Also, that gray board, was that supposed to be the next world? If that's the case, the game's glitches reached another level. I really don't know what to think. I need to take a long break.